All right, welcome everyone. Well, we appreciate everyone coming out on a Wednesday night. I think spring is finally upon us. It was not raining today. So before we get started, we'll talk about a few things on the center of your table. I just want you to take a look. The Presbyterian women have Tamika Ketching coming here. I think it'll be a great thing. It's actually a lunch and a 7 o'clock start, so there's two of them. Please take that. I think it'll be a great event to hear her speak. Also, for those that aren't familiar, Men at Second, there's a lot of men's opportunities for you to go to. If you yourself want to come, or if you have a loved one you think would enjoy this type to do it, to come visit, we'd really appreciate you coming out for that. To start the night off real quick, I'm going to introduce Bob Getz. Bob Getz is doing a great job with Shepherd, and he has done really introduced this to the community. So I'd love Bob to come up and tell us more about the soapbox.
Hi, I'm Bob Getz. I'm just a member here at Second, and I've become the director of the Indianapolis Soapbox Derby. I grew up in a peculiar family that actually raced these awesome cars when I was a kid, and we were never really that good, but God smiled on us one day, and I happened to win the Fort Wayne local, and that allowed me to go to Akron, Ohio, and I got to meet these movie stars that they had back then, folks like Chachi, Scott Baio, if you remember Chachi, and Mel from Mel's Diner, and Flo, Kiss My Grits Flo. You know, the older folks are nodding, yes, we know. But anyway, I wanted to, I got a quick little video here I wanted to show, and then I want to introduce Derek, who's really been the volunteer at Shepherd, who's making a lot of this happen.
Because everybody wanted to be a basketball star, football star. This was different. Once I get done working on the car and I win, I know I did that.
The reward is racing down the hill. All the preparation that went into getting to that point is what we're trying to teach them. There are 2 cities that have hosted a race every year that there's been a race since the inception. And that's Akron and Indianapolis. Back in 1935, my dad raced in the second race there ever was. And then he, from there, went to helping other kids, and it's just kind of been a part of our family from the beginning. It's important because it's hands-on. Learn how to use those tools. Learn about the science behind it. Soapbox Derby is just a vehicle, no pun intended, to be able to work with kids and to have an influence. We're going to be an instrument to teach them, to guide them. It's a whole lot better than running the streets, getting into trouble.
I don't hear anything when I go down the hill. I don't feel anything. I'm like in a trance. Once I'm in there, it's just like nothing else matters.
I don't know about you, but in my life it's been really cool, the amazing miracles of people that God's put in my life, and one of them is Larry Tinas, who you saw up there, who's sitting right here. That sort of talks about the heart of Soapbox and what's happened with us. And he's just had a passion for working with inner city kids. So about 15 years ago, he was part of starting the Inner City Racing League, and has gotten kids engaged, and they've grown, and they've gotten better and better. And you didn't know you were going to get a surprise tonight, but actually one of the kids who has been part of that, Marlon Wells, I want you to stand up, Marlon. Marlon went to Akron last year. Marlon went to Akron last year, and he is the world champ from Indianapolis, Indiana. How cool. Marlon is the is the first African American winner in the history of soapbox in its 80 years. So we get that special gift. And he's here, he'll sign autographs for you too. So him and LaVall, probably both, right? So in addition to Marlon, another how I came across Derek was I was sitting out there in the crowd with you, like you folks, 2 years ago. I had just become the director of the Soapbox Derby and thought, wow, what a great thing to try to get Shepherd involved and be part of this. And so I began to have a dialogue with them, and then I was actually at a Bible study, and I meet this kind of awesome geeky engineer who likes mechanical things and likes cars and likes racing, and we somehow start talking about Soapbox Derby, which is in my blood, and he got a little bit excited about it. And from then on, and then the very last part of that conversation was, oh, by the way, I also work at Shepherd every week as a volunteer. And so so we talked about how we could begin to engage Shepherd, and from then with him and Colby and the other folks here. But I want to introduce Derek Mentor to come on up and say a few things about their new car.
Well, Bob gave it away. 2 engineers out in front of a room of people talking is not a good recipe. But I'm honored to be here. My name is Derek Mentor, as Bob said. I'm the co-coach of the Shepherd Community Center Soapbox Derby Club, along with Colby Grandine, sitting down here hiding in front. So last year we came and talked to y'all a little bit about what Soapbox is from my perspective as a co-coach, and then one of the kids came up and kind of gave their perspective. I'm going to do a little bit different flavor tonight. I just want to tell you about who we are, what we do, and then update you, really the most exciting thing, what we've been doing with the past year since we were here talking to you. So our goal in Soapbox Derby is to design, construct, and race Soapbox Derby cars while learning about the principles of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math, and practically applying them in a fun and safe, team-oriented environment. I had to write that down. So if you haven't been up to look at the cars, I'd invite you to come check them out. There's a stock car, a super stock car. The kids at Shepherd built both of these. And then over here is Marlon's World Champion Masters car. So, and I invite you to check them out if you haven't. And you may look at them and think, yeah, they look a little complicated to put together. But I'm sure with some instructions, maybe you could whip one out in a day. Well, the truth is, I think you could. I think if you just sat down and wanted to build one of these things, you could probably do it in a day in about $700. Yeah. The problem is it wouldn't be very good, right? It'd be hastily built. It wouldn't be very fast. If you did that, if we did that, you'd also miss the entire reason for our club, right? We are not here to just build these cars and kind of roll them off the assembly line. What we're here to do is really build these cars, take our time with them, learn about the history of Soapbox Derby, engage with these kids, right? That's what our club's about. The car's a medium to do that, okay? And it's not even really about winning races, though we do race with them. Now, I have promised Bob we are going to get more into the circuit type racing this year. We're kind of feeling it out last year. But that's icing on the cake for us. We're competitive, but our learning doesn't happen out there. We're not chasing a trophy for this. What we're really doing, what we are focused on, is using a Christ-centered approach, just like Shepherd, to meet the emotional, spiritual, and academic needs of these students. So I make them do math in club even sometimes, right? We work on potential energy to kinetic energy conversion and how to calculate drag force, and then we build 1/13 scale models and we race them down to really root those learned concepts. We have had guest speakers in the club, right? We use an agenda every time we get together, so we run through and we do a build and set goals for ourselves, and we achieve those goals and we root that in there. So really the fun part now. So I want to tell you a little bit of background about who we are, what we do, And then more fun for me, I'm sure for the kids too, is to update on what we've done with the last year of our lives since being here. So we had one race. The April race last year was just after this. We had just wrapped this car for here, got it done, wrapped it, and then we took that and raced. And we did pretty good. I think a 4th and an 8th place finishing that race. Well, we thought, all right, we've done one race. We'll go to Akron, right? We'll go to the, this is a bad metaphor, the Indianapols 500 of soapbox derby racing is in Akron, Ohio, where Marlon won the world championships. So I don't know about the kids. I'll tell you from my perspective, I was nervous, right? I wanted big things for these kids. They'd worked so hard to build this car. We'd road trip 6 hours, stayed with some friends of a family member at Shepherd Community Center, who opened up their home to us. And when we got there, I was nervous, right? I'm wanting so much for these kids, and we toured the Soapbox Derby Hall of Fame. We had met kids literally from New York to California. I mean, and everywhere in between. It was amazing. It was the biggest turnout that they'd ever had. So as I'm getting Jordan ready, we're up there at the top of the hill. I'm tucking his foam in. I'm adjusting his hat. The arm drops and off he goes. And I'm a tall guy. I'm looking, but what's that track, 1,000 feet? So the further down they go, the harder it is to tell who's in first, right? So I'm just listening. I'm praying. I'm at the top. Colby's at the bottom with the kids, and I hear, winner in lane 1, Shepherd Community Center. I thought, oh my God, we won a race. We won a race. But then we won another race. And then we won another race. And then we won another race. And then we lost to Girl Scout Troop number 5. which I don't mean anything by that. I believe they went on to win, didn't they? They won or second place. So we beat them in the second heat, and then we ended up losing by .008. 8 thousandths of a second out of the Sweet 16 to get into the finals. And there were 140 cars in there. It was powerful. And I think Coach Jordan can back me up here. There is a difference between losing and being beaten, right? We weren't beaten that day. We lost to Girl Scout Troop number 5. But we weren't beaten. We drove back 6 hours, and everybody was elated. From there, we raced in the Mayor's Cup in June. My dad came out to that one. He and my mom went down in the car. We came away with 4th place, 6th place, 8th place, and 12th place finish in cars that Mr. Larry loaned us in our relationship with them. And then we had the July local where Marlon qualified to go to Akron, as well as Bradley did. Bradley Getz. We came away with 5th place finish there. Very respectable if you think from Region 5. That is Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. So everybody can come here to race there. These kids, I think, built an amazing car. They proved they could race it and can really hang. So that's what we did. Towards the end of last fall, we used some of the money we had. We bought a used soapbox car that we could afford, and then we also purchased a track with a timer on it, so we can use those 1/13 scale cars, race them down the track, and actually use them to prove concepts on. And then we bought, at the turn of the year, this beautiful white car here that we've affectionately nicknamed Marshmallow. The kids set a very lofty goal to get that done by tonight, so we could have it here for y'all tonight. We got it in February, and the kids just completed it here, last Thursday, right? And got the shell on. So, very good job to meet that goal. So in the near future here, what we're going to be doing, actually tomorrow, is start brainstorming a wrap for that car. That's hopefully every bit as cool as this car. We were told at Akron that we had the best paint job, I don't know how many times. And this was all the kids brainstorming and mapping out what they wanted it to be. We're going back to Akron again for the STEM GRC race, this time with 2 cars, 2 of our stock cars. That's in May. And so as I wrap up here, I want to invite any and all of you, come down and watch us race. If you want to volunteer with Indianapolis Soapbox Derby, come see me, come see Bob. Or if you want to be a guest speaker, if you have a gift, a talent, something you want to bring to the kids, maybe just about a career, something you're involved in, come see me, pick up one of our newsletters here so you can read a little more about what we do. And I want to say, I meant to say this last year, I didn't. We are one club at Shepherd, right? And a fairly new club, almost a year and a half, going on 2 years. What Colby does and the other leaders at Shepherd do, they provide a tremendous amount of after-school clubs for these kids in addition to everything they do all day long and all school year long. None of that would be possible without events like tonight, without support from folks like you. We are one club in this whole thing Shepherd's doing. And God's working through us. He's working through Bob and Soapbox Derby. And I just want to thank all you from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of the kids' hearts. Thank you for making that possible.
All right. You know, it's interesting. Tonight I got to do something I've never done before, and I got to shake a world champ's hand. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And so I asked him, I said, what was it that allowed you to win? He said, I ran perfect races. I didn't bump off to the side. Is that the correct terminology? I ran perfect races. I said, why were you able to run perfect races? He says, because I've been doing it time and time again. And the lesson I learned from that is whether it's our faith, whether it's anything else we do in life, the more we do it, the more we're in it, the better we're going to be, right? So we're talking about opportunities to get involved. We're talking about opportunities here at the church as well as with Shepherd. Think about that. Think about how we can get involved. Next, coming up, we have the chairman of the board of Shepherd to talk a little bit more about their mission, Mr. Jake Stamper.
Okay, I'm not an engineer, which means it won't be as entertaining. But, you know, when I looked at these, I thought, can they make them to fit me? Or do I need to go on a diet? But anyway, yes, yes, exactly. I am so grateful, and on behalf of the board of directors for Shepherd Community Center, not only for all of you in attendance here who are helping to support Shepherd Community Center, but I'm grateful for folks like Derek and Bob that pour themselves out and make our mission real. They put our mission on the street. Just tell you a little bit about Shepherd Community Center. Shepherd Community Center's goal is to provide the hope found in Jesus Christ and help break the cycle of poverty through a continuum of care. We understand that if we don't do it through a continuum of care by addressing the physical, the emotional, the academic, and the spiritual needs of our neighbors, then we'll fail. We have to address each one of those buckets. And Derek brought that up, and he talked about how one program of Shepherd Community Center, one of hundreds of programs that we do, incorporate the physical, the emotional, the academic, and the spiritual needs, and addressing those needs. Because holistically, we have to make sure that our next generation that's going to lead us is equipped, and that they know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, most importantly in the hope that he provides, but that they're also well-adjusted emotionally, physically, and academically. And so at Shepherd Community Center, we put our focus on developing programs around each one of those buckets. And tonight was a perfect example with Soapbox, one of the hundreds of programs that we do. So I know I don't want to go forever. I want to thank Men at Second Presbyterian for putting this on for 35 years. Can we give them a hand? That is unbridled dedication and loyalty to Kingdom Impact. And for almost all of those years, Shepherd Community Center has been the beneficiary. And we have been able to, because of you all, to make the greatest impact for the kingdom in the kids and in the families of 46201. We're not 35 years old at Shepherd Community Center, so we're learning from you all, and I appreciate that. Partnerships are important to us. Now, I know we're waiting for Coach Jordan, and I've got a quote, and so I better read this so that because I know he's here, I better read this, make sure I get it right. Coach Jordan once said at a news conference, and I quote, "It's always been a team effort. It takes a village to raise a child." Now, Coach Jordan was talking about the systems and the programs at Butler. And that rings true for us at Shepherd, and it rings true for us as the body of Christ and the church, capital C. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a tribe, and we as the body of Christ are forever grateful that we are surrounded with a tribe like you all and so many others in the community that are willing to circle around and make an impact and help us address the next generation, to help break the next generation of poverty. So thank you very much. I've got a movie, or not a movie. Yeah, it's a 2-hour movie, so go ahead and get your popcorn. I've got a video for you, and enjoy. And if you have any questions, if you want more information, if you have any thoughts, catch anybody up here, Darnell or Adam, Officer Adam here. They both work at Shepherd. Catch myself at this table, and feel free to ask us whatever questions you have. Okay. Thank you all.
8139, SMR, lane, difficulty breathing, engine 54.
Shepherd posted a job description, and I read it, and it was going to give me the opportunity to do police work the way that I think police work should be done.
In the short time you've been around us, I think you're seeing that we know a lot of the people in this neighborhood. People that are coming up to us and that know us and that are more comfortable with us. Starting off by building those relationships and asking, what else can we do for you? How can we help? I think that's a way to start scratching away at the problem.
I don't think I've ever met a police officer and a paramedic that cared so much as these guys did, honestly.
When they respond to a call, it may be a police issue that Adam has to take care of and call for backup from IMPD. But many times there is a health care issue and they're not understanding what is available to them, and Shane can route them in that manner.
From about 10 to 2, that's kind of our ideal time to start interacting with folks that we had made contact with the day before, the week before, people that we've been dealing with or interacting with for 6 months. Oh, perfect. Is she over east? Is she? How's she doing?
Jay always repeats the same comment that poverty restricts people's ability to advocate and navigate.
Your sugar's high, you've got to get that diabetic ulcer figured out. So that's the trip today to the hospital.
This man was staring down the barrel of a full-on amputation. Didn't know how to navigate his insurance, didn't know how to navigate the actual healthcare system, and didn't know how to get a ride to even get to the doctor's office.
Listening and asking more questions is something we're able to do with our time that many of our peers just don't have the opportunity to do.
They took a portion of his heel. He's home now. He's seen his primary care. He actually has a primary care physician now. And last time we checked his blood sugar, it was down about 200 points.
Would we really known all the issues that people are dealing with if Shane and Adam hadn't been in those homes talking to people, if they hadn't had that one-on-one connection? And that's why I said it's important that this is community-driven.
The amount of return trips to the emergency department, the amount of avoidance and readmission to the hospital, I don't even know how you would begin to put a dollar sign on what we've done out here.
It's the relationship that's going to change the game. It's somebody constantly pouring into their lives and them finding hope that things can be different.
We couldn't be more proud. He's been very successful in the fact that he went from calling 911 about once a week to he's called twice in 6 months.
Shepherd's always been that constant. That's reassuring to people.
I think by going out and serving the needs that they express to us with no expectations of anything in return, just truly doing it out of the care for their well-being is what will change the quality of life of this neighborhood.
Next year, I think we're going to get shorter guests, so I don't have to keep doing that every time. But, you know, it's interesting in life, we really have two choices. One is we can live in our circumstances, or two, we could live in vision. And what I love about Shepherd is they're not just living in vision of what's possible, but they're living in Christ's vision for what's possible for others. They're talking about the cycle of poverty. When you think about the cycle of poverty, once you have 3 years, you don't know any different, right? So they don't believe in handouts, they believe in hand-ups. What does that mean? It means that every student that goes there pays something to go there. That means that every parent is volunteering at least 2 weekends a month. Is that right? 2 weekends a month for their child to go there to see what's possible. Years ago, Gerald Ford was asked, did you always think you could be president? He said, no. He said, when did you think you could be president? He said, when I met one. So think about what that is. We have to understand what's possible before we can actually do it. So when we think about that, obviously we'd love for you guys, in the middle of the table, we have envelopes to make donations. The price of admission doesn't really raise a lot of money for us for Shepherd. It's really your kindness, of your generosity that will do that. To put some numbers to it, this summer, their summer program costs about $200,000 to run. It's one of their biggest expenses of the year. It also helps get some kids that don't have opportunities to eat, gives them food during the day, that type of thing. They go on a lot of field trips, really neat. To give you an idea, last year we raised roughly $14,700 with a smaller group. Now, if everyone here just were to donate $100, we would get over $20,000. But if we hit $150, guess what? We would double last year. So if there's a challenge today, I guess that's where I would look at is think about it, pray about it. We'd love for you to do that. But the biggest thing is who's visited Shepherd here? I know I have. Anybody else? I would encourage you to do so. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to help out tonight, but what are you going to do in the future? Because I think it's Luke 12 that says, for much is given, much is expected. When you think about that word, other rendition or translations say required. I like required, and I'm not saying required that you have to give. I'm saying required that you got to tell someone about Shepherd, right? Go out, now that you know what they do, go visit them. Figure out see it for yourself. Because I know when I walked through there, I looked at those kids, they were the same age as my kids, and I knew those were my kids, right? Like when you walk through, those are your kids. So I just encourage you to go out and do that and prayerfully consider some gifts tonight so that we can really help with their summer program this year. All right, without further ado, really the man that needs no introduction, right? I mean, so everyone's here to hear him speak. I tell you what, when he committed to being here tonight, I got goosebumps because does anyone follow him on Twitter? I mean, if you don't, before you leave, I'm telling you, follow him on Twitter. It will be encouraging beyond belief. So, LaVall, Coach Jordan, played at Butler, as you know, from '98 to 2001. I started his coaching career as an assistant for Butler, Iowa, and Michigan. Was head coach at University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and then came back to his alma mater at Butler. So what I find most interesting, if you go to his Twitter handle, he's got 4 things that describe him. First is a man of God. Second is a husband. Third is a father. And fourth is coach of Butler basketball. My guess is those are in order for a reason. So I would like to introduce Coach Jordan.
Thank you. All right, do I hit on? And here's the hard part. Is this on? Is this thing on? Can you hear me okay? Good. Here's the real answers. Everybody else, I got plenty of people that try to describe me in a lot of ways, so if I just do it, they can just read that, and that's the description they have to go with, because depending on how we play that night, there could be other descriptions of me. So now I'd like to, let's give another round of applause for my man Marlon there, right? That's amazing, and what you all are doing and what you're a part of is absolutely phenomenal. So another just credit to you guys and the vision of it. for Shepherd Community and the Soapbox Ministry. That's it's outstanding. I have no idea. I'm definitely not an engineer, so if you tried to explain that to me, Derek, there's no way I can understand that. So, but I'd like to thank you just for having me. I got the invitation many months ago, and I said yes right away. Now there's pressure because Fred was telling me and Pastor Jim was telling me that Peyton Manning spoke here before he won the Super Bowl. So then that happened, and then Brad Stevens, way before the 2 trips to the Final Four, Brad was up here, and then all of a sudden, so if this is the springboard, if they would have told me that, yeah, I would have, I wouldn't have hesitated. I didn't hesitate, but it would have been like, I probably would have called you. But it's a pleasure to be here. It's great to be back in Indianapolis. My wife is a North Central grad, and so obviously with my history here at Butler, but she was excited to come back. She didn't hesitate one bit. The house was packed in Milwaukee like in a day maybe. I mean, it was about as rapid as you could get. My 3 daughters, Ava's 13, Alana is 10, and Adeline is 5, and they were all excited to get back to see Grandma. And so it's just fun to be back here and for God to have to routed us in this direction. And I think tonight, I was a bit all over the place in terms of, hey, what do you talk about when you're following some pretty good acts. And I came back to what I know in the Butler way, so I share that. And I thought, there's 2 things. I get up here and talk about me, but then everybody fall asleep. So that's probably not the way to go. Talk about our team, but hopefully you followed and you were excited to follow, and it was fun for me to be back and be in that seat. And I'm definitely not a pastor, so we're not going to give a sermon, but just to maybe give you a look into the locker room a bit in my journey. 2 things I love to do is fellowship and worship and talk Butler basketball, and so those things kind of for me go hand in hand. And so I thought, there's identity that kind of kept hitting me, and they didn't want to limit me. They didn't really give me a topic, and that's kind of what came to my mind was just that word kept popping up, and I think it's impossible. It's absolutely primary to function. You got to know who you are. To be able to do what you do really well, you have to know who you are, and I think it piques curiosity in many ways when people always ask about what is the Butler way. Like, they know there's a clear identity that's been established. Probably for many of you, people ask, how is it that you do what you do at Shepherd? Because there's an identity there that people want to know about and get curious about. And so, it's something where I believe leaders, right, there's 2 ways to do it. And in this profession, you see both, where you can use the players or the student or the people, right, to build up the kingdom. So that would be me getting guys, and we draw up some plays and they score a lot of points and we win a lot of games and we build up the kingdom, and there's this program and this tradition, or Butler doing that over many years. Or the other way, you use the kingdom, right, to build the people. And I think that was the way I was raised and brought up. I think just listening today, that's what obviously the church is doing here, and Pastor Jim, and that's what Shepherd is doing. Is there's a kingdom that's started and it's building up the people through many ways. And so we always say we want to build great fathers, great husbands, and community leaders. So hopefully if we're doing that, we'll win a lot of games too, because the guys have the right spirit about them, and that's always been the case. So those core values at Butler, and if you don't know them, and I see many familiar faces in the crowd, but those are kind of what we use to build them up: humility, passion, unity, servanthood, thankfulness, and accountability. And I wanted to speak to them because when I was introduced to them 20 years ago as a player, a recruit, it was told to me that they're all biblically based, and obviously there's a curiosity that comes from there. I was one of those kids that was small town in Albion, Michigan is where I grew up. Very non-traditional. I grew up with a great aunt and great uncle, not mom and dad, and so up until high school, and in 10th grade I moved with my grandma and grandfather. So when I say it takes a village, Like that was my village. It wasn't, mom, dad. Now they were in and around in part of my life, but I didn't go to sleep every night with mom and dad tucking me in. So it was different for me. And it's different for a lot of people. Everybody has a testimony. Everybody has a story. And so, but they threw me on the Sunday school bus every Sunday, whether they went or not. And I always tried to figure out why weren't they going? Like, I got to go. Where's everybody else? And so there was something that they were wanting me to get out of that, right? And there was a people that they wanted me to be around and fellowship with, whether they were going to church that Sunday or not. When I moved into my grandmother's house in 10th grade, they were like Sunday morning church, Sunday school, Sunday morning church service, fellowship Sunday night, Bible study on Tuesdays, and all week. It was like, and my grandma was in the choir and the whole thing, and so I always grew up around it, but was still searching for my identity in Christ and my identity, within spiritually. And so I think as I got through college, it came much later. But these values were something that we drive home with our team and talk a lot about the fruits of each one of them. Right, first one being humility, and the scripture is Matthew 23:12. For those who exalt themselves shall be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. And it's, you come in the locker room, they surround our team room, they're on the wall in my office, and we talk it to them. We say humility builds respect. Now, me coming in the door as a freshman, and they all come in this way. Every freshman, it's like they think they're going to come in and conquer the world. They're going to start, they're going to be all Big East freshman team and be one and dones, like all of them. And so there's a huge dose of humility walking in the door. I walked in, there was 5 seniors, and my Coach Barry Collier said, hey, you're going to sit there and watch those guys and learn how to do things. And so I spent a lot of my freshman year like this, instead of, doing what I wanted to do as I learned along the way. We've got a freshman, Christian David, for instance, this year. He's coming in, he's a freshman, he's highly touted, and we're doing a shooting drill, and you have to make 12 shots in order to beat the drill. And we got Sean McDermott, and he just, don't know the level in terms of just the intensity and the pace that you got to go at. And he's only getting off, 14 shots. So it's going to be, you better shoot like crazy if you're going to make 12. That's the goal if you're only getting off 14. And so we have to show him, hey, watch Sean do it, right? Sean's getting off like 19 shots in this drill. So he's got to, and so just, there's a humility, and they all learn it in different ways. And I was told early, the best teaching tool I know is the bench. And so there's a great teacher for them to learn. But there's a respect, right? When you walk in and you drop your ego at the door, and you have humility, it builds the respect. The guys in the locker room treat you different if you don't walk in like, you're Mr. All this and all that. Because what's the alternative? Pride. Right, and we know pride came before the fall, or arrogance, and you don't want to operate in that regard. And so there's a confidence you have to have, but you have to have humility. I think passion is, for us all to be here, and for what year is this? 35 years now. That people have to be passionate about what they do in order to keep that going, and we preach it and talk it, and we want guys that are passionate about Butler, and passionate about being a good player, and passionate about getting a degree. And we say, do not be lukewarm, pursue excellence. And what's excellence? It's one of those things where you can't really describe it. You know it when you see it. I remember saying that about Tony Dungy and the Colts many years ago when I was here as an assistant. It was like that was kind of the model. It's what people were shooting for. And do not be lukewarm. So Revelations 3:16 says, because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. Right? And so when I was here as an assistant coach, we had our first daughter. I had just gotten a promotion. I came back, I was director of operations. Then one of our coaches left. I got promoted to an assistant. Had our first daughter all in the same breath. So I'm recruiting, scouting film. I'm up late watching the opponents, and we got a new baby girl in November. So it's like before the first game, here she comes. We're trying to figure all this out. And so I hated coffee, but I needed something, right? Because it was late nights, it's up. And so I began to drink coffee, and I learned and I tell our guys, I like my coffee hot. Right? I don't want it cold and definitely not lukewarm. Doesn't sit well with me. So you go nuke it up in the microwave, but I like it hot. So the point to them is, we want guys that are passionate. And I think anybody that's doing anything great has that level of passion. You can see it, you can feel it when you're around them. And we say that passion builds pride. So there should be a pride about what you're doing, what you're representing, your community, your family. When you see, hopefully, our team play, you see a certain level of pride, win or lose, because sometimes you get beat, sometimes you lose, but there's a certain way they should go about it because of the passion that we expect them to have, and that we try to, if they don't have it, try to teach them and encourage them to get. But we try to recruit it, to be honest. Unity. We say do not divide our house, but put the team first. And I think that is, Psalms 133 says how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. And one of the things that people always commented on when I was way back in the day playing here and up until now is, the guys look like they like playing with each other, that they are together, that there's a spirit about them that's connected. And so we talk about the word encouragement, and the root word of encouragement being courage. And so if you're going to have the courage to step out and do it, you need somebody like behind you, pushing you to do something maybe you don't even think you can do. And it brings a whole community together to see. It was funny, when I was not on the staff or the team in 2010 when Butler was here in Indianapolis in the Final Four, but one of the coolest things I witnessed was the open practice downtown. So if you make it to the NCAA tournament, they have these open practices. Fans, anybody can come, right? And so me and a bunch of former players and alum were down there. We're going to meet up, and catch up with each other and go to Butler's open practice. And so we go, and there's like 23,000 people at the open practice. Like, we're not even at the game yet. And it was just amazing. I'm sitting there, and it's about an hour. It's really a shoot around, and the guys acknowledge everybody there before they go in the locker room. And West Virginia was up next, and everybody left. It was like 100 people left, maybe. And just, thinking, all right, when you see something and things are done a certain way, how much it can unify people and bring people together. It was absolutely, I tell it to recruits, and it's something that, you just don't forget. With servanthood is making teammates better. It's something that, I think Coach Jeff Meyer, who's on our staff, who, if you haven't met, you get to spend some time with Jeff. He's a great man of faith, and he's been one of my mentors. He was the one that left when I got promoted as an assistant coach. He left and went to Missouri, so he always takes credit for me, like moving up in the world. But he comes in all the time and says, the happiest people in the world are those that serve others. Tells our team that every day. If you give to a teammate, it'll come back to you twofold. And just something that I think we preach. There's a young man named Cam Donovan on our staff. His dad Rick, or on our team. He's a walk-on, non-scholarship player. His dad Rick played at Butler back in the late 70s, early 80s, and he just loves being a part of it. So whatever he can do to help it, he just wants to come in and rebound for a guy, like help Keelan Martin, who's our star player, like get better in some way. And Keelan and him, it was the oddest couple you'd ever seen. Right? Keelan's this big 6'7", 235-pound guy, and Cam's this little guy. And we take a foreign trip to Spain. So we had some practices leading up to it. And because of the way that Cam served and gave, and it was like Keelan just took him and put his arm around him, and they were like best buds. So we split up the blue team, which is kind of the second team or scout players, and the white team. But I would always let Cam just stretch with the white team because Keelan liked him. and I knew it created a certain energy to practice that he gave to our group. Now, he didn't play many minutes, but just his spirit and the way he did that. I learned this, that 2,285 times in the Bible the word give or giving is in the Bible. Well, why is that? Why so many times? And I think it's an expression of your love, your hope, faithfulness is when you give. So we always say servanthood builds trust. Right? So we try to help guys understand the fruits of what we're about and the identity are. So if you really feel like someone is giving in your best interest, you trust them, you know, and you give back. But it's you know, again, something that we preach, thankfulness being the next one. And this is something that as I've grown, and I think we're all designed to grow. I think everything, you know, I believe that you know, plants, animals, us as people, all designed to grow. You never stop. Once you stop growing, what happens? Well, you don't exist anymore. And so if you stop growing, you know, that's I would encourage everybody in here just to be about that lifelong growth. But learning from every circumstance. So people ask me, I've been asked this question, why you pray after games? Like, or some people have commented they noticed it or appreciated it, and I say, well, 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18 says, rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, right? For this is God's will in Christ Jesus. And so all includes when we lose, right? We're thankful nobody got hurt. We're thankful we're still together. We're thankful for the lessons that we learned in this moment to help us grow, to become better, to become better people, better teammates, better men, you know, in our instance. And so we teach that thankfulness builds perspective. So if you don't do this, I encourage you to do this, right? Wake up every day and you roll out of bed. That's one thing to be thankful for, right? That you woke up, you're able to get out of bed. So when your left foot hits the ground, say thank. When your right foot hits the ground, say you. And then you can go brush your teeth and do whatever it is, whatever your routine is from there. But just to start with a perspective on the day, and it's amazing what you'll attract, right, for the rest of the day. Because I've been guilty of waking up and that alarm clock goes off, and it's like, you know, it's I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and then everything else in the day is wrong too. And so just to have the right perspective, and I think that's something that you know, I think our players from 1 to 13 this year expressed fully. Keelan Martin, we lost to Georgetown, tough one, didn't play well. Here at home, no comments on that in the room, but no, we just didn't have it for whatever. And so after the game, he went around the room to each teammate, and Keelan's not a guy that like says a ton. He's more a leader by example, you know, doesn't talk a lot. You see him, but he goes around the room after we're done, you know, and everybody's dismissed, and touches each teammate, encourages them, and tells them, like, you know, thanks, like, you know, for whatever they've done. We need you. You know, we'll be ready the next time out. It was just, you know, a moment that I'll never forget. Just because it was Keelan, and you could kind of hear what he was saying, and I just kind of sat back and observed it. And I thought at that moment, when you're thinking, I don't know if we'll ever win another game if we play like that, right? That we're going to be fine because of his spirit and the way he's given, because he's got a good perspective on what's going on right now in his senior year. And last, accountability. We talk about a ton. We say accountability builds commitment. And so if you're committed to that diet, you hold yourself accountable when that piece of pie is sitting on the table. Because if you're not committed like me, you'll reach out and grab it, and you'll need the workout, and you definitely can't fit in these cars up here. And so, you know, I think no excuses, no explanations. And one of my favorite verses, and I want to open this up for some questions, is this one, that Psalms 1:1-3. And so my journey, you know, as I got on into this career, my family, we moved to Iowa, go to Iowa, have our second daughter, my wife's job's transfers. We were there 3 years, things don't go as planned, and we get terminated. And so that is a place I'd never been before. You think it's all going great, you jump into this thing, and you're learning, and you're moving up in the world, and you're making progress in your career. You know, you're having a beautiful family, and now it's like you hit a spot you never hit before. And now we got to find a job. Got a wife looking at me, two daughters looking at me saying, hey, what are we going to do now, Daddy? And I don't know. Honestly, don't know. Don't know who to call, who to reach out to. You know, I've been, you know, trying to, feeling like, you know, things were going great, doing it, you know, maybe a little bit prideful, thinking I'm not good. right? And boom, here it hits. And so it was in that moment, March 2010, that I just fully gave in, hit the ground and said, you know what? I've been on that Sunday school bus. I've been kind of nurtured in this way, but never dove in, submitted, and just let Jesus take the wheel, and you drive, I'll ride. And in that moment, so people ask, like, what'd you do when you got fired? Like, how'd you handle it? I said, well, I got saved, and like a few weeks later, I took the family to Disney. And they're like, wait, what? You're supposed to be looking for a job. You're supposed to be on the phone networking. But there was such a peace that it's going to be okay. I trust the plan that's in place. Wherever I land will be the place that I'm meant to land, right? And so we went to Disney and just enjoyed each other, came back, and somehow, some way, I ended up at Michigan as an assistant coach, and it was great. We were back around family. I grew up in Michigan. But we started off the Big Ten, and it was year 4 for John Beilein, and it was kind of rocky, and we're 1-6 to start the Big Ten. And so I'm thinking, was this the plan? Because if this happens again, I may have to change careers here. But just staying faithful and pushing through and battling, and next thing you know, we make the tournament and we keep advancing and we do well, and somehow, some way. Think about this for a moment. I tell people this all the time. I get the head coaching job at Milwaukee. We won 11 games, and I got the Butler head coaching job. Now tell me we don't serve an awesome God there. And so when in that moment, it was Psalms 1:1-3. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, does not stand in the way of sinners, does not sit in the seat of mockers, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on that law he meditates day and night. And to hold myself accountable to that in the moment, right? Day and night, to just believe in the word, meditate on the word, and pray and give it to him. And it says, and I want to encourage you guys to stay committed, and it says, like a tree, he's planted by streams of water, right? And those are things that can take you this way or that way. And if you're not planted, right, strongly in some sort of roots or foundation, if you don't have an identity, you can just go whichever way. And so it helped me just reciting and memorizing this verse. And I would say to all of you, and this is a strong room from what I sense, that you can't allow what you see, what you feel, what you experience, your circumstances to change what you decided to stand on. And so if I couldn't feel comfortable tweeting what I tweet, saying what I say, then that's not the place I need to be, because I know, what I've decided to stand on, and I have to be able to not throw it in people's faces, but be firm, right, in my stance. And so, and it says at the end of that, right, when whatever he does prospers. And so there's always the belief that it's going to work out. And so we were down 15 with 3 minutes to go against Ohio State. Sorry, Pastor. Right, I know you're out in Portland this year, like down 15, 3 minutes to go, and there's like, we're dead in the water. And there is no way you should win a game like that. It could happen, but the chances are, and somehow we're plugging away. We have a couple timeouts, and Keelan Martin's coming to the back to the huddles, and he's saying, like, just next possession, next play, like win the next play. Let's just stay focused. And I'm thinking, I've been trying to get Keelan to talk like since I got here. Now he's finally talking. So let's see what happens. So he makes a shot, and then Kamar Baldwin makes a shot, and we're going to overtime. And it's like, how did we even, like, I can't explain this right now. And then we go into overtime, and Keelan makes a drive down the lane. He puts it in, and they dribble up and have a shot. Now, going back and watching the film, if the guy just throws it ahead, there's like a Ohio State guy down there, he could just catch it and lay it in. Like, we weren't where we were supposed to be. But thank God he didn't. We come back and win the game, and there's just a belief that I had the whole time, and people, in terms of demeanor on the sidelines. And I always say, if I have to convey what I want them to feel. And so probably in my mind, I was thinking, no way. But in my heart, I was thinking, you know what, if we just keep doing it, we probably have a chance. And so there's whatever he does prospers. So I think, I leave you with this, and any questions I'll take. And I heard someone say this, and it just kind of hit me. You're sitting in a seat as a head coach or a public figure where you get scrutinized, criticized, critiqued, and the whole deal. And so you learn to kind of not pay much attention to most of it, right? Because there's three opinions that matter. Your opinion of God, God's opinion of you, and your opinion of yourself. And anybody else's, doesn't really count for much. And so if you know your identity, you probably have an opinion of God. I know mine, and I believe the room knows theirs. And what he thinks of you is based on your faithfulness, your obedience, and your discipline. But you're loved. And so even when you're down, you can get up. And even when you feel weak, you can be strong because you know what God thinks of you. You're a child of his. And then your opinion of yourself. Because sometimes we can feel inadequate. It's like, I don't know if I'm ready to be a head coach. 2 years ago, like I've been working, but now you're in the seat and it gets hard, or whatever that goal is that you've been shooting for. Once you get behind the steering wheel, you can start to question some things. So you have to be strong in what you believe about, yourself as well. And so I think, that was it. So I post or I'm tagged, or what is that called? My description is in that order for a reason, because those are that's kind of the opinion that I have of myself, and so I think that's important. So hopefully that helps somebody in the room, gives you a little bit about. I'm excited about being here, being back, and obviously I think the world of Butler and the people, our administration, the whole campus, the community, and there's it's just fun. Right? It's just fun to be in this seat, and I know whose plan it was, and so that makes it even more special to me. So thanks for having me tonight. I don't know if we got time for questions, Pastor, or if that was part of the plan or not. But whoever's running the deal can we can do a couple?
Y'all can just wait till I get to you with the mic.
Well, thank you for being here. I know I speak for everyone. I have several questions, but I'll just ask one, and if there's a lull, which there probably won't be, I'll come back and ask others. I do want you to know, don't apologize, especially to Pastor Jim, for your coming back and winning that ball game.
You were okay with that one?
Yeah, you bet. But I'm interested in, what is the hardest part of your job?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
I would say the hardest part of your job is this. My 13-year-old daughter, who's heavy into gymnastics, was driving to Akron, Ohio last Friday for her regional gymnastics meet on Saturday. And she ended up doing really well. She's level 8. Her goal is to get a scholarship for gymnastics. So she's pouring everything into there. So she's level 8. You're not really getting recruited yet at level 8, probably level 10. But she finishes 3rd place all around, which is like great. Now I get but the hardest part is I'm in Dallas recruiting. So I don't get to see that. So I'm texting my wife. She's sending me videos on the phone, and I get to see it, but it's not the same as being there. So I'd say the most difficult part is we're in a heavy recruiting cycle right now. We have big events around the Indianapolis area this weekend, but you miss a lot. And so that's the hardest part. That you miss some things, you miss some birthdays, but that's a lot of professions. But it makes it's challenging. So we try to involve them as much as possible. All of our families, in and around our staff. I got Emerson Campen, who played at Butler, former player. He just had a newborn. I think she's 6 months. And Brandon Crone, he's got a 4-year-old son and just had another baby. He played at Butler. He's our director of operations. And Jeff's kids are out of the house now. Omar Lowry, Real Vergolo, they don't have kids. But I'm very conscious of just the time, that balance.
Coach, I have a question. We have 10 grandchildren, and they
Can any of them make a corner three?
Listen, one is a sophomore at Butler, and we're very proud of them from 13 to 20. And kids right now are getting a pretty bad rap, I think. You're in the homes, you're around, you see all kinds of kids all around the country. What are your comments about this current group of kids?
Yeah, in terms of, I don't know if kids have changed that much. I think about myself when I was that age, and I think maybe what's going on around them has changed a ton with the outlets that they have now. In our world, in terms of recruiting, there's a, for instance, my dad, my freshman year, I called home. It was like, hey, I don't know, halfway through, I'm not playing, I'm doing this, and while these seniors are teaching me the lessons, and he's like, well, push through it, stick it out. And I found 8 to 10 minutes later on in the season. In my sophomore year, I was starting. I was playing 20 minutes a game. They got taken out of starting, but I was still playing. And then I called home again, like, hey, they got me playing, but I'm standing in the corner. Like, I can't. He says to me, wait, are you on the court? I said, yeah, but like I just stand in the corner all the time, like I can't do it. He's like, well, last year you called me because you weren't on the court, right? So if you're on the court, you think you need the coach to figure it out? So I don't know if the responses are the same nowadays when kids call home, and in terms of just that level, and not saying it just dealing with, there's just so many transfers in our world where kids change and pushing through hard. They maybe get out a little bit more than in the past. So I don't know. It's just, but I don't think kids have changed. Like I did some stuff that I was held accountable for, and it helped me, and I saw the fruits of it later on, even if it was later on in life. But I think sometimes there's parents that prepare their child for the path, right? And then other times there's someone around that's trying to prepare the path for their child, instead of just letting them fall and letting them get up and letting them grow, as probably we all had to.
Thanks for all your inspiring words, Coach Jordan. I've been a scout leader and have been a chapter advisor for my fraternity, which was like being a parent, and coached youth basketball. But one of the things I use, and just get your comment, another fellow Hoosier here, John Wooden, 1935 graduate of Purdue and one of the winningest coaches here at UCLA. I use a lot of his leadership skills in his book called Leadership, and one of the things that I try to, and I've tried to stress to my own children and to the folks I work with, he said there's a difference between winning and succeeding. So, he teaches through his pyramid there what it means to succeed, not just on the court, but in your own personal life there. And, just hearing you talk tonight, I thought, boy, if John were here, he would just be all thumbs up about that. Because again, it's not just teaching your players about winning, it's about teaching them about succeeding in life. So didn't know if you want to comment on that at all.
Thank you. No, I think he's if you're studying, and I think all coaches at some point, whatever, regardless of sport, have studied Coach Wooden, just because of the reputation. And we break every huddle saying champions. We don't say championships, but we do say champions. We kind of, 1, 2, 3. Guys say family. I say we fight. They say together, and we will be champions. But that doesn't necessarily mean championships. We're talking champions for life, right? If you have certain values that you're, grounded in, and you'll be successful. But it doesn't necessarily equate, with accomplishments, right, and hardware. And so that's what we're, but if you build the person, you build the player, and you feel like, that's what we're responsible for as teachers and mentors, and in our seats as coaches. So. We got one more.
Coach,
we got one more.
A comment and a question. The comment would be, I appreciate very much the control you have while you are on the sidelines. I think that follows up with what John Wooden always tried to convey, is that if you're under control, then the players are. My question is, how do you view the one and done kind of ball player that you're sometimes recruiting, and compare that with the Butler way? And how's the Butler way affected?
Yeah, that's a great. I view the one and done players as really talented. They're talented enough to. I did get my first technical foul this year, which was we had a lead, so it was kind of on purpose because I didn't feel like we were getting what we deserved with a lead. The refs were playing the score, not the game. But my grandmother called me after that. She put me in check. She asked me, she said, "Now you look like you're gonna take your jacket off. What were you gonna do? Are you gonna go fight the guy?" Or what? But I think here's what I think fit is all what we speak to in terms of the recruiting process. And we recruit families, and we're looking for fits. Now fit, if you fit, there's, I don't know, there'll be 2 tournaments. Under Armour will be hosting a tournament here this weekend. Nike will be hosting a tournament. There'll probably be 3,000 to 3,000 or plus players here this weekend, and they all are looking for Division I scholarships or some sort of scholarships. They want to play college basketball. I mean, there's a lot. That's just one. There's another one in Atlanta going on. There's another one in Baltimore going. There's a lot of play. So I believe if in any organization you have to have some guiding principles, core values, right? And so those are ours, the Butler way. So there's the funnel. So how do you go from this many players to shrink the pool, right? That's the funnel. And depending on how many scholarships we have, there may be a number, 4 or 5. Some people they have 2 openings. They'll throw 80 scholarships. First one takes it, gets it. That's not us, because the fit is so important. Now, if you start going through the funnel and guys fit and they're talented enough to be a one and guy, all we want to make sure is that they fit. And they're talented enough. There's guys that fit that can't play, right? We can't have those guys either. So there's talent and then there's culture. And you got to make sure that you have both. Good enough? Well, thank you again. Thank you again.
Thanks again. Thanks.
Okay.
Absolutely, that was great.
All right. Obviously, from second from Chef.